Hey, what's up guys, Guardian here, coming to you guys with a new video today, going over my OverDress deck for Bastion, Keta Sanctuary, yes. So we have our first OverDress deck profile on the channel, really looking forward to this, and yeah, Bastion is just really cool, absolutely love him. And yeah, for this deck profile in particular, we're going to be taking a look at the control version of Bastion, since that's the one that I've kind of taken more of a liking to. Since the other version of the deck is more so of a beatdown version of the deck, which I also kind of like, but I like the interactions that the control version of the deck has a little bit more. So we'll look into this. So obviously with Overdress, we have the Ride deck, which is a new addition to the format, and yeah, it's really cool. So to start with, we have our starter, which is going to be base. This is just the one from the start deck, of course. The difference with the starters this time is that you get to draw the card if you're going second, but I kind of like this. It's a little bit more fair, I think, in comparison to what we had before. And also, if you are going first, you do get the access to potentially doing a Persona ride. So I feel like that's a nice offset there. First and second has its advantages and disadvantages. So yeah, quite like the change to the game overall there. Next, for the grade 1, we have our Fort, which is pretty simple in that you reveal 2 grade 3 cards from your hand, and you reveal the top card of your deck and call it to Regard Circle if it's a unit, but if it's not a unit, you put it to the drop zone. So, of course, if you see an order, it's bad times, but if you see anything else, you just call it to the field. So, you're getting a free plus there, and of course, you can tell from the skill, you kind of want to mulligan your hand so that you have a decent amount of grade 3s in the hand for these skills to go off, and also you need the grade 3s anyway for your late game, so that's the thing there. Regard skill is kind of irrelevant since we only played the one copy of this in the main deck for the ride deck itself to ride into. So, the grade 2 for the deck is going to be our Knight of Heavenly Spear Rooks. His skill is that when Bastion is rode upon him, you can reveal 3 grade 3 cards from your hand to draw a card. So, yeah, just get a free draw, gives you some card advantage. So, the Fort and the Rooks, pretty nice overall, just in terms of gaining some extra advantage in the early game there as you're riding up to the grade 3, which we will look at now, which is Bastion. So, Bastion, really cool. His skills are, during your turn, all of your grade 3 units will get 2,000 power, so they'll all become 15Ks instead, which is also very good if you're going first, since your opponent will be at a 10K base, and all of your 15Ks are pretty awkward to guard if they don't have the optimal guard shield. But also, Bastion's main skill, which is of course what he's known for really, is at the end of the battle that your drive check revealed the grade 3, you can discard a card from your hand, and then choose one of your reguards and stand it, and it gets 10,000 power until the end of the turn. So yeah, it restands something, gives it 10k, very good, gives it multi-attack for the deck, and just very powerful, since of course most of the deck is grade 3s, so you're gonna more times than often get that restand skill off. So in terms of grade 3s, we'll go into the actual main deck now, instead of the ride deck. And we are playing, of course, our 3 additional copies of Bastion, since Persona riding is very strong, and we do want to be doing that. The 10k to the front row, very effective for those attacks, and also you do get the draw when you do the Persona on Bastion, so that could draw you into more pieces or just more shield in general to guard with. So yeah, you just want to play the extra 3 Bastion. It's a grade 3 as well, obviously, so it can activate the restand skill of Bastion himself, so that's also really nice. So for the next grade 3, which is arguably the best grade 3 in the deck besides from Bastion, is the 4 copies of Alden. So Alden is really good. When this unit is placed on the rear guard circle, you can Counter Blast 2 and Soul Blast 1, choose a card from your hand, call it the rear, and if it was a grade 3, you draw 2 cards. So yeah, draw 2. I think any card game enthusiast would would really like to hear that more often. So yeah, of course, really good. Draws you into more pieces, more shield, just more card advantage in general. But the other skill, which is also really good with Bastion, is that when this unit attacks, if you have 3 or more grade 3 units, it gets 5,000 power until end of turn. And that's really key because it means it'll hold on to the power all the way through the turn, which means if you restand this with the Bastion skill for restanding, it'll also get more power when it attacks. So it'll get 5k the first time, and then the next time it's going to be 10k in total. And then you've also got to take in the mind all the other power allocations that you might get from personas and other skills. So Alden can get pretty huge overall. He's definitely one of your main pushing units to get your opponent to a higher damage count. So yeah, definitely be playing the 4 copies of Alden. So for the next grade 3, which is also really nice, which is the 4 copies of Fosado. So Fosado has 2 skills. This unit cannot be chosen by your opponent's card effects, which is very good in any sort of control matchup. But also, when this unit attack hits, you can countercharge and soul charge. So this is very good, especially considering Alden is a Counterblast 2 and Soul Blast 1. You definitely want to be getting this skill off as best as you can, just because that'll give you more activations of your high cost skills, so you can get more of them off more often during the game. Also, just having that protection effect makes it so that this card is very good in control matchups, which will make them just a little bit easier to deal with and make things harder for them to get rid of your units. So that's very, very nice. Next, we have the start deck grade 3, which is going to be the Rafluke. Rafluke is really good, especially in this version of the deck, with it being control version with the order. So this basically puts itself in the soul to give one of your grade 3 rear guards 10k. Very, very good, especially if we take a look at the order very quickly, which is the Swing Sword of Judgement. This card says you need a Soul Blaster grade 3 in order to use it, but with Rafluke going into the Soul, that's not an issue. So yeah, really, really cool. Since the only way outside of this is basically to Persona Ride with Bastion. So really good for the power, makes your attacks more pressurizing, more likely to get your facade skills active, and of course making your Aldens just even scarier when they start attacking with that extra power as well. So Rafluke, very nice addition to the deck. Well, continuation from the deck, I guess, since it did come from the start deck. And then in terms of the last unit grade 3 that we're playing, I decided to play the 3 copies of Kokabiel, just because with this deck, I would play 4 of this in the beatdown version of the deck, but because I'm playing more of the order focus deck and the control version with the painkillers, which we'll get to soon, I feel like this at 4 isn't as necessary, but it is just good in general because it is extra shield regardless. It'll get 5k for every 2 grade 3s essentially, but it does include itself on the Guardian Circle. So this and your Bastion grade 3 Vanguard will already make this 5k. So it's always going to be 5k at minimum, which is just nice to have in general when it comes to having the extra shield for more protection. And then if you have those additional grade 3s, which more times you should, at least have 2 of them in the front row, this will just be a 10k guard, which is not too often to see. A lot of decks don't have access to 10k guards, as far as I'm aware. It's usually gained through some sort of an ability like this. So yeah, decided to go for the 3 of this for now, but you could swap that around if need be. Now, the main part of the deck, which is what I like, which is the orders. So we have the Swinging Sword, well, the Dowsing of Sword of Judgement. Very weird naming there, but I just called this the Sword of Judgement. So like I said, you play this with Soul Blast at grade 3, so Rafluke works really well with this. But its ability is that you choose one of your opponent's rear guards, and your opponent puts all of their rear guards in the same column as that rear guard on the bottom of the deck. So this is really cool because it's able to sort of maneuver around any resist skills similar to Fosado, because you could just choose the unit that hasn't got that ability behind it, and then it will scoop both of them up at the same time, since it's not actually targeting the other unit with that resist ability. So yeah, this is actually really cool just in terms of punishing the opponent, since one of Bastion's weak points is that it really weakened the early game, since your hand's clogged with grade 3s more times than often. Your opponents might take that to their advantage and try rush you a bit in the early game, but the thing I like about that is that if you get to your grade 3 turn and you drop this down, it could severely punish them depending on where they've placed their unit and how much they've dedicated to the field, which is what I really, really like about this. So that's why I wanted to play 3 copies of this at minimum. And then in terms of my last order, I wanted to play the 1 copy of the Judgement Cometh, just because this is essentially just a 5th copy of Alden, just so that we have more access to that draw when needed. But in terms of ratio, you could maybe drop this down to 2 and put the second one of this in. But I feel like if I want to go more focus on the control variant, I feel like you definitely at minimum want to be playing 3 of this. And then this is sort of like a flex spot in terms of like playing 1 or 2. I think 2 is the absolute max for this deck, but yeah, that's up to you there. But those are the orders for the deck that I decided to go with. So that is the grade 3s. It's a large portion of the deck, as you can see. The ride deck's also at the bottom there, but as you can see, that is a pretty good chunk of grade 3s. I think in total, if I remember, the main deck outside of the ride deck is like 22 grade 3s, so pretty good amount. But with that being said, we do have some grade 1s in the deck, which are pretty cool in general. So first we have Painkiller Angel, which I've been mentioning throughout this video. Now I really love this card just in general because This gives us the ability to do things that the grade 3 focus deck can't do, where it's just all grade 3s. So first it's a grade 1, which means we can call this down in the early game if we are looking to do some early game aggro, which is nice to have access to. We also have the 5k shield, which we can use to protect ourselves early game if we haven't seen any triggers. But also in general, it's an 8k booster, which, like I said, since all your grade 3s are 15k from the Bastion skill, this does make really good magic columns, and it's 23k and higher essentially, so very nice. But the skill is what I really like it for. At the end of the battle that this unit boosted, you can Soul Blast 1, retire this unit, and then draw a card. So it replaces itself for a draw. So what I like is that you can use this for the aggro of it to make your attacks bigger and scarier, or just getting the attacks off sooner. And then if you want to, you can just Soul Blast, retire it, draw a card. So you're refreshing the card, and you're rebuilding your hand back up, but you're also getting rid of the unit from the field, which means it can avoid any control matchups, which is really, really cool about it. And yeah, it's just solid. And of course, that draw could potentially see, personified copies of Bastion. You could see other pieces in the deck, or just naturally give you more shield and more access to maybe your Perfect Guard. So yeah, the implementations that this gives to the deck, I just really love, and it's actually one of the reasons why I kind of prefer the control version of the deck at the moment. But I am looking into playing the more beatdown aggro version of the deck at a later date, and I'll probably do a deck profile for that as well later. So 4 copies of Painkiller, really, really nice. So the last grade 1 of the deck, as you can probably guess, is the Perfect Guard. So basically, when this is on the Guardian Circle, if your hand is 1 or less, you don't have to pay the cost. You do not have to discard a card for it. So very nice upgrade from the start deck. So yeah, get these whilst you can, because I think Bushy said they're not going to be reprinting these for a while at the very least. So yeah, try get these for the deck, because they will be quite important if they don't make any other Sentinels, that is. So that is it for the grade 1s. So now we just have the grade 0s. So for our triggers, we have the 4 copies of the crit that we got from the main set. At the moment, I have 3 foils and 1 common, so definitely got my fair share of foil with this one already. Just need 1 more for the deck. Oh yeah, and can I just say, I really love the fact that we got holo versions of cards for the deck. So yeah, that's kind of like my main goal at the minute, is to get the holos and rarity upgrade the deck. But yeah, we're playing the 4 crit from the set, and then of course we are playing the 4 crit from the start deck. So we are going with the 8 crit in total here. Yeah, just really effective. Obviously, crits are just good in the game. Definitely want to be pressuring the opponent, get them the high damage counts, and making those really high power attacks that much more threatening. So playing 8 crit for the deck. And then next we are playing the 3 copies of the draw trigger. I decided to go with the draw for this deck in particular, just because I feel like since we're not completely reliant on the attacks here, we are just looking for more pieces of the deck, just so that we can have bodies on the field to call. And like I said, having more access to things like the Persona Ride copy of Bastion and having just shield in general is nice. You could argue that the front trigger also gives you more shield as well, but I kind of just like the draw aspect of this right now. And also, this is a quite nice discard fodder for Bastion's skill overall. So I think if I was going for the beatdown version of the deck, I would swap this around for a front trigger. But I am liking the draws at the moment, just in terms of seeing pieces for the deck. So 3 copies of those. Of course, next we have the main thing that I've been waiting for, which is the over trigger for Keta Sanctuary, Amartinoa. And yeah, this card is pretty nutty in Bastion, I have to say. Your rear guards get drive checks if you reveal it. I like that. So if your entire front row is grade 3s, you're getting 3 twin drives that turn. And then if you restand one of those, actually, what you would do is that you'd have the 3 front row grade 3s attack with one of them before the Bastion attack. And then your Bastion would attack. And if you see this, you're getting the normal twin drive, of course, from the Vanguard. But then if you see this and you see a grade 3, that's obviously great because you'll restand that other rear and get another twin drive. But that's very high rolling, very low chance. It could happen, right? It could happen. But yeah, I've had this happen to me once or twice, I feel. It hasn't happened too often, but when it goes off, it feels great. But besides that, having the 50k shield if you do draw into this is also quite nice. So even if you don't get it off for the over trigger skill, it is just quite nice in general, obviously, for the high shield value. and getting this on the defensive is just nutty. So yeah, over triggers, they exist. We are going to play them, of course. And then the final card of the deck is, of course, our heal trigger. I decided to go for the one from the main set just because I quite like the art of this. I know the other one is like the Bastion art, but I just quite like the new triggers, really, the new art from the main set. So yeah, got one foil at the moment and then the 3 commons. So yeah, we are getting there slowly but surely. But yeah, that is essentially the deck. So like I said, this is the control version of Bastion at the moment. I am going to be looking into the beatdown version of this deck, which is a bit more unga bunga, as they say. But yeah, I am enjoying this control variant. It's a little bit more different. It has a few different lines of play that the other version of the deck doesn't have. And I am looking to experiment with the deck a bit more and look into other builds for Bastion. And of course, we'll have more support for Bastion coming out in later sets. So yeah, stay tuned for that. But yeah, that's going to do it for me, guys. So I hope you guys enjoyed this deck profile for Bastion and my first OverDress deck for the channel. And yeah, stay tuned for more. So with that being said, that's going to be me. So like always, guys, like the video if you liked it. Comment down below, tell me what you think. And I'll catch you guys in the next video. So like always, this is Guardian225, signing out.